Today we're going to talk about Chevrolet 12-bolt rear ends. I'm going to do some comparisons between it and maybe a 10-bolt to show you the difference. But we'll talk about the 10 bolts later. This is a Chevrolet 12-bolt Chevelle 68 to 72. You'd find it at any El Camino, Monte Carlo, Chevelle, even some station wagons, as long as they come with a 4-barrel engine or greater, even a 350. Most would have had a 12 bolt, so there's probably some Malibus out there that came with 12 bolts. But here is the thing, as far as just to cover a few simple issues with these, they really never wear out. They just don't ever wear out. You'll have some issues sometimes. People over tighten these shock mounts and they'll break. These have been cheesily welded, so this needs to be repaired on this one here I have for sale. But let's get to the point. Okay, a lot of Oldsmobile people don't like to hear this, but there was only one true 12 bolt ever made. It was this one. A 12 bolt BOP is not a 12 bolt. You say, well, how's that possible? It has 12 bolts on the cover. Well, yeah, it does. What actually makes a rear end a 12 bolt is not the cover, it's what's inside. Inside of this thing is an 8.875 inch ring gear that has 12 bolts holding the stuff together. And I don't know a lot about rear ends, I'm not going to claim to do it, but I know the basics and how they function. The Olds BOP 12 bolt has a smoother type cover, but still a 12 bolt cover holding it on. But the inside guts is not an 8.875. From what I understand, it's just an 8.2 actually inside. Another distinct feature of a Chevrolet rear end, 10 or 12, is these tapered axle tubes. You can see they taper down on the end right there. They taper on both sides. Okay, now we're going to step over here to a Monte Carlo frame that I just got out of here. The car I flipped over the other day in that other video. And this car was originally a 12 bolt car, but somebody had robbed the rear end at some point and put a BOP rear end. And notice, no tapered axle tubes. Even though it's a 10 bolt, Chevrolet will have a tapered axle tube. A BOP rear end will not. And you'll also see a lot of BOPs has the little C notches on the side. That's an 8.2 BOP rear end. A lot of your Olds Cutlasses and stuff, I've had a few, came with a Big 10 8.5. Big 10 8.5 rear end. And we'll talk a little bit more about the 8.5 in another video. But what I mainly wanted to show is, you know, how to spot a real Chevrolet 12 bolt. They've been a lot of these things, and I don't know if the bolt holes interchange or not, but all the guts will be out of them. They'll be stripped down, and they'll be selling these things at swap meets as a Chevrolet 12 bolt, and it's a BOP. There's nothing from a BOP or a Chevrolet rear end that will interchange inside. They're also, you know, like I said, they're not a true beefy 12 bolt like the Chevrolet one is. So if you've got a 68 to 72, really 64 to 72, anything, this is the rear end you want to look for. They're getting hard to find. They reproduce a housing, but they're extremely expensive. I think, you know, $1,200–1,500 just for a housing. You can still pick these up. I'm selling them now anywhere between $600 and $700, depending on condition. This one probably a few dollars off because of the shock mount issue, but you can still get lucky sometimes and pick one up for less. Just find somebody that's wanting to get rid of it. So keep that in mind. Don't get bit on a BOP rear end. If you do get bit, as long as you didn't overpay for it, someone with a 442, you know, 70 to 72 442 would buy it just to be correct for their car. But again, now that's another thing. 68 and 9, I know on the station wagons, at least my personal Vista Cruiser, a lot of those came with Chevrolet 12 bolts, my car being one of them. So Again, tapered axle tubes on the side, the rib in the middle of the cover on a 12 bolt. The BOP is smooth. But more importantly, what's inside. This is a true 12 bolt. Do not get bit on the BOP. I like to call it a fake 12 bolt, because in reality that's what it is. Good luck in your finds, and I hope this helps.